broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guests, Elliott and Diana Jackson. Now Elliott is the president and founder of Quantum Matrix Inc., an holistic-based program which assists individuals in raising their vibrational level in order to obtain and maintain personal success and fulfillment. Now in 2007, Source, or God, began to speak through Elliott in speech and writings. Now the information received from Source is contained within his books. Elliott's books received favourable reviews from critics and have all had featured stories coverages in newspapers. Now Elliott and his wife Diana are frequent guests on radio shows around the USA, and he and Diana completed a 51-city national workshop and book signing tour each year. Diane and Elliott Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a special interview, this one. It's a special interview for me, most definitely. I'm so honoured to have you guys and to have come across you guys as well, to come on my show. So I'm pretty touched that you're here right now, because I think what you're bringing through is just incredible. So I'll not get too much into the teachings just straight away, because I want to know, and so does the audience, just a bit about yourselves as well, if that's okay. So now, between you both, and I'll ask you both this question, was there any sort of spirituality in the families that you were brought up in?
Well, in my family, there was more a religious zeal. My father, I think when he was around 32 or something, he got sick from a lot of alcohol, and he stopped cold turkey, and he started going to church quite a bit, and he took us along with him, and it was almost like an urgency in his being to change. Now, he wasn't overboard in any behavior that was destructive, but he just all of a sudden changed. And so as he took us to church, a lot of the things that were being said, I was quite young, they didn't make sense to me. So I would question a lot. And then I started some negative behaviors. And so I kind of caught myself and said, well, if there is a God or, so whatever, I want to help people find out about that. So I began going to a university to be a Methodist minister. However, I still continued some of the behaviors that I was doing. And so the people were saying that you can't do those things and be a minister. And my mind was like, well, why? As long as I'm not harming anybody or myself. So it was a lot of judgment and hypocrisy. So I switched from that and cut all that off. By that time, I was in Europe, in England, and I would be like in the town square. We lived in Middleton Cheney, and elderly people would come up to me and say, you can't run. And then they would just walk away. And so I covered it up with a lot of alcohol and some other things. I just didn't think about it and pushed it out. At any rate, my life began to spiral down quite a bit, and I began to get into illicit drugs and a lot of alcohol. And my first marriage crumbled, and my life was pretty bleak, and I blamed that which I thought was God. I said, well, if you're omnipurpose and all over, why was my life like that? I never took into consideration that I'm the one that had created it. So anyway, I cleaned up. I began to help people with alcohol and drug problems, doing family counseling, working with kids. But I was quite unhappy. I was successful, but I was quite unhappy. I ran a halfway house for men and women, but something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was. So I always knew that there was something, but whatever it was, I didn't want any part of it, if that makes any sense to you.
It does. It does. So yeah, I can imagine, doing that job as well. There was a lot of low energy there as well, and it must have just zapped you quite a bit. Because I mean, they don't come up to your energy level. You have to go down to theirs because that's just where they're at. There's no mistakes. It's just experiences, and wow, and of course as well, you've been to university, as you say, you was in England, and you was in the military as well, I believe, because that's what.
Yes.
Yes. Wow, what a journey for yourself, but not much. I mean, you weren't reading books on channeling, like you wasn't picking up the latest copy of the Seth material, or.
I knew nothing about channeling, actually.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it.
No, right.
So I had no understanding of it at all, or anything spiritual, and anyone that presented themselves to me spiritually, I would quickly leave their presence.
Wow. Okay.
Because I thought them to be a bit eccentric, to say the least.
Yes.
And possibly insane. So,
well, welcome to the club. It's okay now. Well, thank you.
Then,
yeah.
A series of events happened, and I moved from the state that I was in, and I met Diane. And it was something different about her. That's the best way I could say it. I found her to be a bit bohemian.
Thank you.
It was something about her. Now, she was on a search for spirituality.
Yes.
And so I'll let her explain a little bit about her.
Yeah, thank you. And Diane, just with yourself, so you was on the search for spirituality, but what was your spiritual background or upbringing as well?
Well, I was brought up Catholic, in the Catholic religion. I went to Catholic schools, Catholic church every week. And at the time I was brought up, the Catholic religion was much more strict, the old ways. And like Elliot, even when I was very young in school and in church, I would listen to some of the stuff. And I always believed in a God, whatever that was. And I believed in the morals, not necessarily the 10 Commandments, but general good behavior and morals and being a good person and all that. But a lot of the stuff they would say, I thought, oh, that can't be right. Like if God, in my mind, God was always pure love. And if God is pure love, why would he send little babies to purgatory, some strange place to suffer? I mean, all these different rules and stuff, I just didn't set right with me. But, so I grew up in an average middle-class family, raised Catholic, pretty strict parents, pretty normal childhood and all that. And then throughout the years, I always had different periods in my life where I was searching, so to speak. For instance, when I was still in grammar school, maybe I was like 10, 11, when I would go to the library, I would get the books like Edgar Cayce books and Sylvia Browne and all, Jean Dixon, the old ones, and I would hide them under my bed and I'd read them at night, like I was just discovering. And I always was, doing stuff like that and thinking outside the box, so to speak. But, I never brought that up to my family and my friends, and no one I knew was like that. So, and then I'm a pharmacist, and I was practicing pharmacy. I was married. I had my children, just average, normal life. And, before I met Elliot, I had a good life. I was successful, financially successful, business-wise, I was successful. I owned my own mail order pharmacy with a partner of mine. And but I was unhappy with I was unhappy with myself, really, and I was unhappy with what I was doing with my life. And I knew that even though I was sort of at the pinnacle of my profession, that I needed to do something different, because I went into the healthcare profession because of a desire to help people and be of service, and I knew that what I was doing wasn't helping anyone.
Right.
You know, it just didn't set right with me anymore, the dispensing of drugs and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
Absolutely. Yeah, so could you say that everything you had done up to that point of meeting Elliot, you can now see that actually everything served a purpose to where you are now, in a sense?
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
And of course, it's easy for all of us to see that in hindsight.
Right.
And now that you know, and I know, and Elliot knows the truth, that we do create everything in our lives, and I am responsible, and there is reason and purpose for all things. But still going through those difficult times, you know, you still sort of like kick and scream and, like, you know, the self-pity kind of, why me? Why do I have to struggle? But everything is for reason and purpose, and brings us to the point we are now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to shoot forward here as well a bit. Okay. So when you, yeah, and I'm going to get back to your relationship. Just there's a reason why. So just shooting forward to 2005 and the poetry, Elliot, that you were writing. Would you say that was inspired as well when you first started writing poetry? Because that's kind of a bit far field from what you were doing as a career.
Well, yes, I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on with me. One night I was at the computer and I just started writing poems, and they would come like that. And I would get titles just out of nowhere. And so when I met Diane, I had literally hundreds of little sticky notes with poem titles on them. And I would just take one and write the poem in a matter of 5-10 minutes. So I had written over 500 poems. I didn't know what was going on. Diane thought it to be a bit weird. She, she said, "Well, what's all this stuff?" I said, "Hey, I'm writing poetry."
And I said, "How can you write a poem in 5 minutes? It would take me a week to write a short poem."
No, it's beautiful. Yeah. So do you think that was source coming through, or something coming through, just prepping you for to make the transition easier?
Well, we know that now because Source years later informed Diane. What did they tell you?
Yeah, they said that the poetry was the beginning stages of them channeling or coming through Elliot, and they and it was quite a process for them to assimilate or get his body prepared for their energy. So it was a slower process. At the time, like Elliot said, we didn't know what was going on. I just thought, okay, whatever, you know. and
so we find out later through Source, because when I channel, I'm not conscious of anything. So all my information comes from Diane, which is another story, because as I grew up, my background, I had a mistrust of females. So now we know that it was a process for me to begin to trust a female, because I have to literally lean on the information that Source gives Diane. So
Hi, I'm Kevin Moore, host of The Moore Show, and it's my passion to help you live your best life now. You might be looking to find answers on love, connecting with your life's purpose, reuniting with a loved one on the other side, discovering your past lives, or just helping you make sense, finding your direction now. So The Moore Show has collaborated with the most gifted readers around the world to form The Moore Show Psychics. Now, my readers have a large range of skills to choose from to be of service to you, and all my psychics are interviewed to show transparency, with each interview available on the website. So call now, dialing the numbers on the screen to speak to my operators 24/7, or go to tmspsychics.com to choose a reader or book online. The Moore Show Psychics, helping you transform your present moment into the most loving and happiest it can be. Now, I also offer a full money back guarantee, so what have you got to lose? Empower your life now. What a lot of healing that's taking place in your relationship then. Yeah, even with this collaboration. Okay, I want to get back into the relationship. Let me just push it forward a tiny little bit then. When was the first time you started to channel? What was that experience like for you, Diane, as well?
I'll give you just a short snippet background of how that happened. But after Elliot and I met and stuff, I was more earnestly pursuing different spiritual avenues and trying to figure out what resonated with me, what didn't. And so when we first met and after we'd been going out for a while, I suggested to him that he take Reiki class with me because I wanted to become a Reiki Master. And he had agreed, and we went to Reiki, and he thought that was okay. And the instructor was a male, and he was a psychologist, and Elliot thought he was okay, not too whacked out.
But I really didn't believe it. A lot of it I did to try to please the woman that I was pursuing. But because our Reiki Master was in psychiatry, I said, well, maybe, it's okay. And he was a male. But doing the attunement to become a master, we had to do a visualization. And in that visualization, something weird kind of happened. Because, some light workers, they see things and they see auras. And see, I don't see any of that. I never did. But doing this attunement, I saw a lot of lights and colors. And so it freaked me out. I didn't even tell Diane. I didn't tell anybody in the class. So I just blew it off. So go ahead.
So anyway, just fast forward. So we went to various classes, and our group of spiritual friends became larger and larger. And then along the way, one of my friends had suggested that I take this channeling class with her. And at the time, we lived in the suburbs of Chicago, and this was in the city itself. Then I'm like, oh, sure, because I'll try anything. I'm the curious one. I want to check everything out. And so then I asked Elliot if he would come with me, and he's like, no. He's like, now you're pushing the boundaries. I'm not going to a channeling class. That's ridiculous.
But I want to preface, though, after we became Reiki Master, this was before the channeling class, we would go to a healing circle where, a bunch of healers would come like that. So whenever we would get there, people who had, issues with their body or whatever, when I would come in, they would just run up to me. Or if we went to a table, people would start shaking and saying, oh, where's that? What's going on? And I know what's going on. I said, well, I just put my hand over them, and some people would get up and leave and say, that's too much. And so I didn't know what was going on.
So anyway, I persuaded him to come to the class with me, put it that way. And we went to the first class, and the woman who was teaching the class was channeling the Sirius Star family. And when she began channeling, well, I'm sure you understand, some channelers go through like toning and a different process to bring in the energy. And so when she started toning, I'm sure you've heard it before, it was quite shocking to Elliot.
Well, I thought it was some BS, actually.
And that's good. That's good. You're so honest, because other people listening to this will resonate with you, and this is going to draw them in. This is good. Thank you.
Well, I told Diane, I leaned over. I said, "This is some BS. I'm leaving." And under the table, she kind of kicked me and said,
"You're staying there, Elliot."
And when she began to channel, she channeled in a old Cockney English accent. Now, because I lived in England, I understood what she was saying. I found it quite entertaining, but I didn't believe it at all. So on the way home, I was like, well, that was a trip.
So, anyway, the channeling first started, and really it was, in hindsight, of course, and what we know now, it was more to open up, I think, Elliot's and my own mind, or the mental portion, confirming that channeling was even possible and exactly what it was before Source first came through him. And so a few weeks into the course, we were doing a meditation in our living room, which was part of our homework assignment for the class. And, with the intent of, reading each other's energetic fields, seeing what came to us and all that kind of stuff.
No, but I'm going to cut in. I had tried some mind transference stuff when I was younger, but there was a lot of chemicals involved, and it didn't turn out too good. So I stayed away from that too. So I need to preface it. So meditation and stuff like that to me was like, I don't think so.
So anyway, after, we were sitting in our living room and we were alone, and it was maybe 5-10 minutes into meditation, and my eyes were closed. And when Elliot started to speak, and the best way I can describe it is that I knew it was coming from Elliot, and it was Elliot's voice, but not exactly. It was a different tone, different cadence, and words that Elliot never would say. So the first words that I heard spoken through Elliot from Source were, I am, you are, we are one. We are here for you. You have questions, we have answers. And I was not, I could feel the energy and stuff, and I was not afraid at all or anything, more just like shocked, but sort of like pleasantly shocked. So I opened my eyes and I looked at Elliot, and Elliot was sitting across from me in the chair with his eyes closed, his body totally relaxed, like he was sleeping, sitting up in the chair. And I was, and so they said, you have questions, we have answers. So the first thing that popped in my head to say was, who are you? Because I had heard our teacher channel and a couple other people channel Ascended Masters, Angelic Realm, different entities. So I thought, well, maybe it was, my angel come to talk to me or something of that nature. And so I said, who are you? And then through Elliot, they said, we are all there is, was, and ever shall be. We are the Alpha and the Omega. We are the beginning and end of all things. We are from whence you came and where you are going to. We are who you pray to in your times of need and pain. We are who you were taught to be as that word God, although we do not like that word God. They prefer all there is, or the all, but we say Source. And they said, we are pure light and love. You are pure light and love. And they went on and on in this vein. And I started to cry. I mean, really, like this overwhelming feeling of joy came over me, because even though I always believed in something, greater power, higher power, Source, God, whatever you want to name it, I always had this little doubt in my head, like, well, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just like a fairy tale I'm telling myself to make it through life, and that this could be it. This is all, we die, we're done, And so, it was truly at that moment that I knew we weren't alone, that I knew there was a loving, guiding power that we were a part of, and there was something greater than ourselves or what we could see in our little limited reality we live in. And I was just like overwhelmed, and they said, and I was crying, and they said, again, you have questions, we have answers. And then and people will understand this who are sort of even new to channeling. So just in case, I thought, there's that little bit of chance that Elliot might be pulling my leg here. I asked a couple of questions that I knew if Elliot was conscious, he would never tell me the truth. Like past relationships that I was nosy about and different things like that. So I asked a couple of questions, and I knew they told me the truth, which I never tell Elliot what the questions were. So, and so I knew that, so I was 100% satisfied, so to speak, that Elliot was not conscious. It wasn't part of him coming through. And then I said, why are you talking to me? Because I'm just me, I'm just Diane. I'm just a regular human like everyone else. And they said, we're speaking to you in this manner because this was your spirit's contract or sole purpose. And your spirit chose to do this before you came on earth. And they said this was the one, they call Elliot the one that we speak through. And this is the one that we speak through's contract also, but we had to be together before the work could start. And so to fulfill our purpose on earth at this time. And then I said, but why are you talking out loud at all, through any human being? And they said, because now at this time in your human history, the mass consciousness is being pushed, so to speak, by source, the angels, all the masters and teachers, to rise in an accelerated manner because it's time for change on the earth. And they have come to assist in that process and to smash all the lies and misinformation that have been told and taught to humankind since the beginning of time. So then they said they were going to come and speak to me more and more in the future. And then they left his body. And then Elliot awakened, and then he can tell you from his perspective.
Well, she was sitting across from me crying, and I asked her, I said, what's wrong with you? And she said, well, you've been talking for about 20, 30 minutes. I said, okay, honey. What did I say? And then she told me all that, and I knew that something had happened.
Yes.
Because Diane is not, she's, more somber,
yes.
sober person mindset. Something had happened. I didn't know what. I said, well, if you say so, but I really didn't believe her. I said, well, okay. So we didn't tell anybody in the class when we went back. We didn't tell people what had happened. But then it began to happen, and Diane began to record and write down, document. And so I would not listen to the recordings, but I'd look at the papers that she had, and it was information about the galaxies, the universe, the human body, other things that I really didn't care anything about. And so I knew something was happening, but also I thought that I was going insane.
Yes.
And that she was going insane, because after Source would leave, I would be real disoriented. And I would find myself just alone, standing somewhere, or I'd be at the fridge, and there'd be food on my face, and Diane would be pulling, so don't eat that. It's really a weird period of time.
Yes.
So Source told, and it was, which I'm sure you'll see the channeling. I'm sure Source will want to speak to you, and you'll see that soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
But Source told me that their energy was so incredibly high that his body couldn't handle their energy for any length of time. So in the beginning, they'd only come in short bursts. And they said they had to adjust the neurotransmitters, his muscular system and such, so that now when Source comes through him, you would know the difference. You can tell the difference in Ellie's eyes and the way they hold his physical being and such, in his voice. But in the beginning, it was a process from the first time when they came through him, where Ellie's body was totally relaxed and his eyes were closed, and the speech was more hesitant and staccato-like. And so it was a period of time. So first, for instance, they would open his eyes, and then they like had him moving his mouth, and they'd do different smiles for me, and they like, how's that? I'm like, no, that's not good. You're gonna scare people, And then eventually they got him out of the chair, and they walk in his body, they talk in his body, and they said it was just a process to get his physical being used to their energy.
It sounds like it's such a high energy that's coming through you, Elliot. That some channelers, they'll say that, well, I just go into the back of the car, I'm still present for the teachings. Some will say, yes, I'm totally out of body. Some will say they're very presently conscious nowadays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But everything you're saying there, I've heard from bits and pieces from other people, so it's not strange to me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yes, I understand that. Oh yes, I've heard that before. Oh yeah, I get that, man. Okay. So let's reverse this back to, as I was going to say, the relationship before we get into the teachings as well, as we were speaking about the relationship earlier on. I think it's very special what you guys have got together. As you said, you use the words that these are contracts, and as the source that came through said, this at this time, this is when the contract starts almost. This is when you would have agreed. This is an entrance window, and other people have said that before as well, with the way that with their connections have worked. So it's beautiful to hear from other people who you don't even know of, that I know, right? That have seen that some of that same process has happened. So there's kind of some universal truths here for me, but I think what you're bringing through is very high level. That's the feeling I get with yourself. Okay.
Well, And you know what's strange too is that Diane told me that Source informed her that because of the time on our planet that I had to be of in physical form of African American descent, and she had to be European descent because the uh, it was time for that on the planet. You know, I'm like, whoa, that's really deep.
Well, yeah, it is. Right.
Well, some very
No,
well, some
not
not.
at all.
Uh, I have wonderful children. Uh, one of my daughters wants nothing to do with it at all. Uh, I'm sure she's read the books, but she won't tell us. And so with one of Diane's daughters, and some are very accepting. Diane's mother is very accepting and open and fully understands all of it now.
Yes.
So it's different.
Of course, then my father completely doesn't understand, and we don't speak of it.
So
So,
we
you
have
know, we have
to.
some family members, we don't talk at all. We're good as long as we don't talk about what we do.
I only mention it, right, because other people who are watching this, who are going through the same awakening process, are going to have the same issues, right?
Oh,
So
right.
it's just to show them that they're not alone. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I wish. Yeah, I feel, I wish that everyone in your family was accepting, but maybe that's maybe that's what you're
It's their
supposed to.
process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's their path, and that's what you're here to learn as well. It's almost like, okay, I still love you regardless whether you
Oh,
accept me or
right.
not. Yeah.
But see, the funny thing about it is that even those that don't are not willing to accept it, they see the books selling all over the world, and
Right.
Diane and I traveling all over the place, and the
Right.
thousands of people that
Right.
call us, and we always are financially secure, and they're like, well, we don't know what it is, but something's going on.
And then too, with the our family members who say they don't believe, when something is going on in any of their lives that's truly of difficulty or some kind of pain and suffering, we're the ones that come and ask for help too, you know. My daughter will be, well, this is going on now. What do you think about that, Mom? Otherwise, we don't talk about it because they know somehow that we have information or been privy to some information that could help them. And of course, you know, now we know through source that the child, the spirit in the child picks their parents. So all of our family, children anyway, picked us to be their parents for their purpose and their progression and their spiritual growth. So
So yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how are you now, Elliot, with what you're doing? Are you much more comfortable with the truth of what you're doing and who you are right now?
Yes, I'm very comfortable with it now. However, it was also a process for me to accept a lot of the information because the books are progressive in nature. And Source told Diane that the first book from God to the Absolute Truth was, written at a sixth grade reading level. It's very elementary, and so that it can be, so people can easily understand it. And so they also said that, and they put in the book that to some this may seem quite elementary or almost childish for those who have been in light work for a while. But, and so many say, well, that's, this is simple information in the first book. But Source tells them when they speak to them, but there are millions that don't know this.
yeah, they want to reach the
So,
masses. Yeah.
that's what it's written for. Uh, all kinds of things. So anyway, I'm very accepting, but the information in book two, book one of the Sapiential Discourses, Universal Wisdom, they set forth that the female is the leader on planet Earth. They give great detail into it. Now, I had issues with that, and because I was always taught or come to believe that the man was the leader. Then they go talk about throughout history in the early days and how everything changed when our species began to eat meat. It changed our chemicals in our brains, and then the males began to usurp the authority of the females. Then they go into about religion and how religions that were designed to keep the female back. So they started a lot of misinformation about Eve and Mary Magdalene being a prostitute, and women couldn't speak and all that type of stuff to hold back the leader. And now in the society that we live in the time after 2012, December 21st, things started shifting and the female began to step back out. Then
Yes.
they informed us that what's going on in the Middle East and all of that, and primarily is a result of the female stepping out and saying, we can get an education. We don't have to walk behind you. We can take this stuff off of our face and we can wear whatever clothes we like. And because the female had been so submissive in that area of the world for such a long time, there was an disproportionate number of males born after 1975 over there. And the economy is in the sink. And so they have no other avenue. So they look to the people who they think have something and they feed into the misinformation. The source just gives all kinds. But anyway, I had to come to kind of accept all of that because it was so new to me.
Absolutely.
And different from what I thought.
Absolutely. And, we could say that, well, if the information is basic to begin with in the first book, maybe it's just a sign that even for the spiritual seekers, you never listened in the first place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there's a part in the introduction of the first book where they say, well, many of you will say that you are ascended or ascended masters. And then they say, well, the truth of the matter is that you cannot be ascended until you return to us. And if you were truly ascended, you wouldn't be reading this anyway.
Right, exactly. So, because I know some people say, well, come on, then, give us something that's going to blow my mind away. Give us something to America that's going to blow our mind away. But I don't think the channeling material always works like that. We're only ready for what we're ready for. Yeah, and even the idea of channeling, I think, blows some people's minds away. Yeah, in some respects. I mean, channeling, is on the fringe of spirituality, but really it's our natural state anyway. So,
well,
go ahead. Sorry.
You're right. To your point, exactly. I mean, you understand. Source says, in truth, everyone channels. When you get that thought in your head to go help your neighbor, whatever that is, those thoughts of love and stuff that just pop in your head, that's channeling. And everyone channels to a certain extent. They said all music is channeled, all art is channeled, everything's channeled. So what they're saying is channeling is actually one of the most common forms of spiritual gifts, not as uncommon or fringe-like as you say.
However, they say that there are levels and vibrations of channeling.
Yes.
If you're at a high vibration, then you're channeling a high realm of spiritual information. If you're at a low vibration, you're channeling a low portion of spiritual vibration, because everything is sound and vibration.
Yeah, but even though, some of the channelers out there with massive followings, they actually, they actually may be channeling lower vibrational stuff sometimes, because that's what the masses want. Where the people who don't have the massive followings, and none of us are after followings in this, because doing this work, one thing you do as well is you do have to let go of your ego, otherwise you're not going to channel.
Right, exactly.
So no one cares about followers, but the higher, more sort of high level stuff. You don't if people are going to get into this, don't expect massive followings. It doesn't work like that. It's not for you. You don't do it for that. But I'm just saying, if you don't have lots of people coming to you for your information, well, maybe it's because it's of a higher level sometimes, but that will grow as people increase as well.
Right. I agree. There's still a lot of people in general who will gravitate toward Some of the people who do lower vibrational channeling, the type that will say, you can find your diamond ring, under your car mat or something, that kind of stuff. And that stuff is not really that important as far as the raising of mass consciousness and changing your individual vibration. And some people look for maybe I'm not saying this right, but, quick, easy answers to whatever is bothering them at the time. And the truth of the matter is that everything is really an easy answer, but it all resides within themselves. And in my experience, when someone tells you, or I tell someone when I'm talking, you're responsible for your life. You can't blame your family. You can't blame God. You can't. That's a whole new level of shift in consciousness for them. You know what I mean? To
Right.
switch to a higher vibration. And not everyone likes that.
Absolutely.
See, they'd be happier if I said, okay, you do X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
and then you pray to God, and everything's going to be hunky-dory for you.
Well, yeah. Let me just say something, Kate. Yeah, we're not talking about, you don't give readings to people like, the person on the end of the pier in some tent, that kind of reading. No, these are soul readings.
Exactly.
Well, too, Source, because Source is quite direct, to say the least. They have told many people that are consider themselves mediums and things like that you're not a medium, because that word means you're in the middle, and you're not in the middle of anything. And that they don't do readings because people are not books.
Right.
So it's really the information that you are seeking, because Source says that we are you, so you're really talking to yourself. And that blows people away, because we're taught that we're disconnected from Source.
Yes.
Or that God is so far out there in some imaginary box we've created called heaven or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That we, a mere human, can't reach that. And then the notion that we are God, that God is in every one of us, is too much.
And what is God? It's just dog spelt backwards. It's just a word. It's just
exactly.
It's just a word.
It's just a word that we humans made up.
Yeah.
God is not called God. God is pure energy. It has no name or physical form. So.
Well, let me just say, because I'm going to get into God as well in just a second. I want to come to that because obviously we're talking about the source here just before we move on. But just very briefly as well, with your gift as well, Elliot. Did you find though that you became more clairaudient, clairsentient, clairseeing? Did you find that these parts of you opened up rather than it was just channeling?
Well, yes, because I receive messages also, and the messages are so clear that Source says it's literally repeated until I have to I have to go to the person. So we were in some place, it doesn't matter where it was, and there was a new reader in the place, and Source says, go to that person and tell them they're not charging enough, and that the owner is asking them for too much percentage. Now, hey, I'm like,
wow.
I don't know about that, but the information keeps coming. Like, go do it, go do it. This is in the highest good. So I tell the person looks up and she says, "Thank you. That's what I've been asking." So anyway, the owner of the place, she comes and she says, "You got to get out of here.
We don't need God in here."
Because you're affecting my business."
Wow.
Or we're being in a place, and Source will say, "Go to that person and tell them they need to get some Chrysocolla."
Yeah.
And keep Chrysocolla with them. So I'll go tell them, and I'll take them to the place, and the employees and say, "This person needs some Chrysocolla," and then I just walk away because that's all I know about it. So anyway, just things like that. So, and then sometimes, if we're in a crowd or a thing, I can. It's hard to explain it, like hear everyone's thoughts, so sometimes it's too much for me, and I have to retreat and get away. I tell Diane, I have to get out of here. And then one more quick instance. We were in a place, and there was a guy who was doing readings with people, and the lines were massive. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go in here. And he had two people that he was training, his assistants, And so when we got up, the guy, he had been there. When I walked into the room, he just got up and left, and he didn't come back. And the two girls were like, well, we don't, we don't know what to do. And so Source came through and said, well, we wanted to talk to the two of you anyway. And the guy never came back. And people were in line waiting for him.
Yeah, well, people who are more sensitive, so to speak, to different energies, some people who can feel the high vibration, who are not of a high vibration themselves, the lower vibrations are literally scared to be in Elliot's presence because they're afraid of that energy affecting them and disrupting the lower vibrational activity they're doing. Then there's other people who are high vibration, who are sensitive, can feel it, who, when like Elliot will walk up to them, will just burst into tears. So, it's a range of experiences.
Okay. So we're 44 minutes in it, and we're going to go over time because this is so worth it. There's so much good stuff.
I know. It's like, I can't believe it.
I know. So just very briefly, at this midway point here right now, your website is?
www.quantummatrixcenter.com.
Okay, and people can go on there, find more information. All your books have been coming up on the screen as well. And if they want to get a reading with yourself, there's ways to book on through the website, isn't there?
Yes, through the website, and my phone number's on there, isn't it?
Yes, we do Skype. They can call 312-256-6270. We do Skype phone sessions, and of course a lot of other things.
Okay, we'll put that information on the screen now, and it'll be coming up on the lower third of the screen as well throughout this interview. So, okay, oh my God, you know what? There's so much we can talk about. Just very briefly, let's just get into God as well. Now, God is just a word. I've said that before. You would agree with that as well.
Yes.
So
okay. Well, I hate to cut you off, but Source wants to come and answer that question.
Oh, that's cool.
Hello. We love you very much. It will happen. Put all of your stress and worry behind you. Stress and worry is quite unnecessary. It begets nothing. That's for you to know. However, if there was a word that we could not like, although we like everything, it would be the word God. Because we are not in the image of a man or a woman. We are non-physical. You breathe in, you breathe out. Air, spirit, God. All of the people, all of the animals, even the rocks. Everything breathes in and breathes out. Air, spirit, God. When you breathe no more, you are no more in the physical. Would that be an accurate statement? So, we are the air that you breathe. That means we're in you, through you, over you, around you. We're always with you. We can't leave you. You are us and we are you. That's who we are. But we use the word God in the first manuscript because that is the simplistic term that many of your mentals is able to kind of accept. But we do not eat except through one of you or one of your others on other planes and planets. So we're the air. You are us, and we are you. That is the answer. There is no other. We are everything and everyone. All music, the classical, the country, the rap, the grunge. We are all art. We're the profound and the profane, except they're different vibrations of us. We love you very much. Do not balk at what is coming. Goodbye.
Wow. I think I'm pretty sure I even got a message there as well. Do you know that, Diane?
Yeah, I saw that. I know.
Yeah.
I think your project is going to move forward smoothly. Is the message.
Do you know? I think that was. Yeah, I think that was most definitely. Thank you very much, Elliot, for letting Source come through there. I really do appreciate that.
Oh, too, and I want to mention too, since you actually experienced Source stuff. Some people, when they channel, like call the energy through.
Yes.
Source pops in and out whenever they desire, not when we desire. So our lives changed dramatically after this started in just practical ways also. I'll just give you a quick, for instance, one time, this was maybe 8-9 months into the channeling. We were driving, doing errands by our home on the expressway. And Elliot said, I think Source wants to talk to you now because he can feel the energy building. And I'm like, okay, but you got to pull off the side of the road because I don't want to die yet, you know. So then they came through immediately and they said, if you believe we are who we say we are, why do you think that we cannot drive your car? Because we gave man and humankind the information on how to make cars and how to drive. So like, if then you obviously don't believe we are who we say we are. So anyway, it was like, so they come in and out, whether Elliot's driving, sometimes they'll wake me up in the middle of the night. For instance, if there's some type of world disaster going on, just the bad tsunamis in Japan, a few years ago now, they would wake us up so that we can, they said it's always important for everyone to know what's going on Earth. Anyway, so we can tune in on the TV and help send like healing energy and love and light to the people there, and different things, to provide more healing. So, or for instance, this is a quick one because it's sort of funny. We were in a restaurant eating breakfast and Source came through Elliot and gave the waitress $100 bill for, like a $15 meal for her tip. And then they left and she was so overwhelmed. She was giving Elliot a hug. Oh, thank you so much, sir. And then Elliot looks at me like, why is this woman hugging me? And Source told me, and Elliot's like, $100? And then Source came through and she needed it way more than you do.
Oh, that's beautiful. I just thought, yeah,
stories like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that as well. That's everything you guys have said is just amazing. And Elliot, what came through there was just that touched me. That did. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what came through, but
doesn't remember.
No.
If you say so.
No.
That's the strange thing about it too. People will come up to me after Source has talked to them,
right.
and they'll say, you told me about my mom and what I need to do, and I say, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't tell you anything.
How much has it changed you though? That's a good point you make. How much has the work changed you as a person?
Well, it's very humbling,
humbling.
Because a lot of times I feel that from the old teaching that I'm not worthy of this. And so Source has to work with me through Diane and say, if you weren't worthy, you wouldn't be doing it. We wouldn't be coming through you. So I have to fight all of that, because a lot of times I think a lot of my past behaviors and even some things today that this I'm not worthy, or
Well, can I just say something? Yeah, but you're having a human experience, so
exactly.
It's a bumpy ride, isn't it? Yeah.
We are both very much human.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets uncomfortable as our following, which that term makes me uncomfortable anyway, because it's not about a following. but sometimes people will look at me like I'm some kind of saint or something. Do you know what I mean? Or that they
Yes.
put us above them. And I always try to tell them, listen, I am no different than you. I have the same issues in life. I have the same hang-ups, the same things. I'm always working on something, and that I am no more special than you. It's just that I have a different gift than you do, but you too have gifts to give to people.
So important. We all have our own see another channel will not channel like you. They do it a different way. Everyone's got their unique gifts. So and put channelers to one side. We all channel anyway. But what about artists, the local car mechanic, whatever? We've all got our gifts. We've all got our gifts. The doctor, right? The entertainers,
right? Or just the gift of a sweet smile and a compassionate heart when you listen to someone and give them a hug. That's a gift.
Yeah, I love you guys because you're not coming from ego. I just want to say that. I want to add that.
Well,
because we well know our human failings.
Source wants me to tell you one more quick thing. We were in a state anyway, and I was with a woman doing a private consultation anyway. So Source was talking to her, and when I came to in the room, no one was in there.
Whoa.
So I went out to Diane in the store owner, and I said, well, what happened to the lady? And so they said Source came out and told the owner, give her money back. And she had been in there for maybe 40 minutes of an hour session. To give her money back, she's not ready for the truth. And just give her money back. And they took me back in the room, so I come to nobody's there. So anyway, come to find out that Source had asked her to call her mother. And she said, I'm not calling that bitch.
Whoa.
And Source says, well, we're telling you that they call themselves we. They say, well, it's in the highest good you should call your mother. And apologize to her. And she said, no. Anyway, come find out that the woman's mother died like 2 days later, and then she committed suicide.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Because Source will tell you or anyone exactly what they need. And so it's quite it's a different type of thing. So Source says, well, you have to understand that we are not well, in one of the books they say the sum is not greater than its parts, and they explain that they're not greater because without us they're nothing, and they're the primary and the secondary, and we're the primary. And so all kind of stuff like that I don't know anything about.
Quantum physics kind of stuff.
And your second and your other books get more into quantum physics as well. Let me just add that.
And the third book, which is coming out soon, is even
blow
deeper.
You away.
Right,
There's
exactly.
A whole chapter on the moment.
Do you know? Does it ever scare you? I mean, I'm just putting scenarios here that for other channels maybe listening to this. Does it ever scare you that someone's going to ask you a question that Source is not going to be able to answer? No.
Well, I'm not conscious, so why would it scare me? Because I don't know what. But Source will answer all questions.
Right. No, that doesn't scare me because I'm 100% certain that Source is all there is, was, and ever shall be, or that word God. So, however, but of course, I've been talking to Source for 8-9 years now.
Now there was a lady after a time with Source. She came to me afterwards and she said, thank you. And so I said, well, for what? She said, when I went in there, Source, they didn't give me any information. And she said, that's what I needed. They didn't say anything to me except, how long do you wish to stay?
Oh, I remember that. That was some.
And the lady told him, I'm ready to go soon, but let me pick stuff up.
Yeah.
That's all she wanted.
She just wanted to soak in their energy and
Yes,
be
that
in sync
happens.
with that energy, right?
That happens. That does with people giving readings. I've heard that before. And yeah. So, can I just, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm never scared they can't answer anything. But what I tell people, who go in, before they go in for a session for the first time, I tell them that source will always answer you and always give you the truth. However, you might not like what you hear, but what they're telling you is the truth and in your highest good. So, because they, unlike myself, who like will go around the edges to get into the crux of the person that I want to talk to them about some issue, source goes right to it. They don't pussyfoot around like I would and make things a little softer for them. They just, okay, this is what's going on.
Well, let me add to what I was saying there as well. If someone's going to want, and I've said this in another interview, the cure for cancer, or some high, intellectual question answer and some scientific question, it may not be in their life path to know this information, so it's not going to come through.
Exactly.
Well, in book 3, Source lays out the 3 reasons. It's in a chapter called the Soul Plan, Soul Purpose. Anyway, they lay out the 3 reasons why someone takes on cancer. And either 3 things are going to happen. And so a lot of times when people come, they tell them which category they're in. And so to some, they say, you have taken this on and you're going to perish from it, because that's what you wish, to help other people accept, just like that. And so all kinds of things like that, just...
You're right. Like, well, for some, like, I understand what you're saying. Like I, even for personally, I'll say, okay, I want to know what's going to happen in this situation. They usually won't tell me, so I don't bother anymore. Because what they usually will say is, something like to the effect of, don't worry, or everything's okay and it will work out. But they don't tell me, like, I think I want to know the exact details of what's going on in a certain situation, because that's taking away from my spirit's experience and my soul growth and what I need to go through, or Elliot, for instance, or anyone. So, but I always think I want the fast, easy answer, but that's not the way things work. And for instance, with cancer, so to speak, Source says that there is going, in an article they'd written for the Sedona Journal maybe a couple of years ago now, there is going to be a cure for many types of cancer in the very near future. And in fact, there are cures now that they're not telling us about, which I'm sure most people suspect. And that, but they say that they're always giving people information. So for instance, the scientists or doctors or whomever have come up with these cures has actually been channeled to them by Source. They've received the information, just like Einstein received information about the workings of the universe and the galaxy. He was actually channeling Source.
Absolutely. And for all those other channels out there that channel ET consciousness and whatever it may be, I'm sure what the source that you're connected to do you think yours is a group source, or it is as it came through Elliot there, it is just everything, it's the all, it's the air, it's the everything?
Well, that's what they tell us, because people ask a lot, whom are you channeling? And we try to say it's Source. So Source, even in some of the books, they explain about Abraham
and different entities and what they are.
And they say, well, those are all us, but they're different vibrations.
And they're a small portion of Source, of who Elliot channels.
And so when the first books came out and Source told Diane, you guys send these to publishers, and we didn't know anything about none of that. And they said who to send it to. Anyway, we did receive replies from a whole lot of publishing houses saying, we've never seen anything like it, the words, the cadence, the way that it is, but we're not going to publish that. Say now, if you say that it's Archangel Michael or Gabriel or Elvis, the press are running today. Say, so if you change your mind,
don't say it's
you
God.
Let us know.
Because they didn't want to deal with that. And there were questions of that.
And so finally, the publisher of the first book, we went to Pennsylvania to see him, and the guy says, why should I publish this? Source gave them some information. I don't know what it was. And then we signed the contracts. And
right. And then too, And two, we travel all over and we meet all sorts of wonderful people all over. And so a lot of mediums and psychics and channelers have sessions with Source. And one channeler calls Elliot the channel to the channelers. She always says all the channelers need to go to Elliot to hear Source to help them with their work. So
well, let me just add to that, right? I think when any of those channels out there they're human beings having this,
right.
experience. So, some of us get caught up in ego and all
right.
sorts of other things. That I see, I'm in this field quite a bit. So I see it. I'm not naming names or anything like that. I just see it, and because that doesn't make me right or them wrong. It's just what is, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, it would be nice if this community, I think it is coming a bit more together. I think it is.
Right, and even even with Elliot myself, we still seek help outside of ourselves. I mean, just because I have the a privilege to be able to speak to Source all the time, I'll still go to other people, or they'll even say you need to see so and so, and work with her and her healing modality.
Well, Source has told Diane, I'm just accepting it, has been saying for years, telling Diane, she tells me, Source says, you need to change your eating habits and lose weight. And I just began to accept this about 7 months ago.
Good on you.
So I began to change my eating habits and exercise and stuff. And so Source says, when we're in you, you're at a high vibration. But when we leave you, Elliot, your physical is in the dump. And you need to do something about it.
Right.
And Diane's telling me that, and I'm like, oh.
Well,
we're no different for everyone else. And what you said is, I think maybe more so now with the shift in consciousness in 2012, yes. More and more people are coming into their gifts. More and more information is coming through, and I agree with you that maybe in the past when there was only like one or two people you ever heard of that did this kind of work, and now you hear of hundreds of people, and it's even I heard on main news stream the word channeling used is more and more common, and people are talking about meditation and yoga and all these other things, that I think it's time that people are ready for this information now. They're more open to it. It's not so strange. And it is time for people to come together. And we've sort of formed a small group of people, healers that want the same thing. Yes. We all do want it.
Absolutely. And let me just add the word, Let the words discernment in here as well. I think even in this field, we have to use discernment. I think some people come have a human existence to show discernment, right? Not that they're not bad people. It's just maybe their life path is for others to see, this is what discernment feels like. Yeah,
exactly.
This is so when people start talking about secret space programs and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying there's not in your books you talk about space travel, space travel in the future, ufology and all that. I'm talking about there are these massive followings for some people when they talk about the secret space program and they've got this unique information and all this. It guides people in the hundreds of thousands, and it's like, guys, come on, where's your discernment in some of this?
Well, look, in the new book, the first chapter is called The Great I Am. And Source has given, and we published this already, we've put it out, 20 new I Am statements. And in the book, and they explained to Diane that this is an addendum to the information that we gave through Saint Germain many years ago. Then they go on to say that the individuals that it was given to interpreted it, that it was for the great white way and a select number of people. So it says, those 33 discourses that were given back then and the 20 we're giving you now are for every one of you. No one is left out. We don't do that.
There's no secrets.
We don't give information like that. There's no secrets. Everything is open to everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to add that if something doesn't feel right, that's something that someone's bringing through, and it's not
That
coming
doesn't
from
feel
love.
right. You should
Yeah,
go with.
yeah, exactly, and that's the same as sometimes people may come to you and they may be like, I just don't like the Seth material. It's just I just don't get it.
Exactly.
It's too deep. It's too high level. But that's okay. Then you'll resonate with something that you're meant to resonate with. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I think discernment in this field is something that we need to develop as well, and and be picky in some respects on what works for you.
Well, and then two sources told us that even if someone doesn't buy the books,
Hmm.
if they touch it, that's what they needed to do.
It starts
That's
shifting
it.
their
It
spirit
starts shifting the
vibration.
vibration.
Because there's an energy in your books. That's
Right.
why. There's an energy that's in the books. Oh, we've lost you there. Well, we just had a break in communications there, and we were just talking about, you know, uh, using due diligence, if I can get the word out, when it comes to what you take in as your truth, and of course, then you had a crash, and then your power went down in your property, and yeah, but you're used to the things going a bit strange sometimes, aren't you? Yeah, well, yeah. Do you think there is sometimes on planet Earth? Do you think there is like lower astral? Yes, can you hear me? Oh, you see me now. Wonderful. Okay, well, keep me on your screen. Do you think that sometimes on this planet that there is not dark forces? That's the wrong word for it, maybe, but it's a word that some people could use. But there are lower astral energies that lower vibrations. Right. Yes. And yeah. Yes. Of course. Yes. Yes. Well, and some science has gone in that direction as well, hasn't it? For sure. Yeah, yeah, that is that. Do you see a sort of the future? Because you obviously write about the future in your books as well. Do you see a future where there is a bridge between science and spirituality? Oh, there you go. Exactly. Absolutely. Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, listen, I mean, we're almost at the end of the interview here, and I really appreciate the time that you guys have both given me for this interview. And what would you say then, Elliot? You know, and I'll ask both of you this really. What would you say is the most important message of your work so far? Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm so glad we got law of attraction in there, just at the end, because yeah. And as you say, the I am, just you just use that in the law of attraction. That's it. You know, that's that's the vibration you bring too. Well, listen, guys, I cannot wait to see you both for the documentary. Yeah, I feel that there's so many more interviews to do with you both, and we've only just scratched. I I think so. I understand. Well, listen, guys, I could be with you forever, and I just want to say, just thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to link everything up on this interview, and I can't wait to speak to you again. Blessings to
Oh
you.
yeah, and yeah, just let us know when you link it, so give us the information so we can link it to our website and post it and stuff like that too.
Well, we've come to an end on today's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests by going to themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.